Thank you, Ken. Invocation by Dale Leslie.
Well, because of the tumultuous nature of events in the last few days, I decided rather than a prayer, I would excerpt a speech by Abraham Lincoln. Many of you have heard this before, but I think it's apropos for today. It is said an Eastern monarch once charged his wise men to invent him a sentence to be ever in view and which should be true and appropriate in all times and situations. They presented him the words, "And this too shall pass away." How much it expresses, how chastening in the hour of pride, how consoling in the depths of affliction. And this too shall pass away. And let us hope it is not quite true. Let us hope rather that by the best cultivation of the physical world beneath and around us, and the intellectual and moral world within us, we shall secure an individual social and political prosperity and happiness, whose course shall be onward and upward, and which, while the earth endures, shall not pass away. Kiwanis can play a role in what's happening in today's life. I hope that we recognize it and then we pursue it. And may this food nourish our bodies to do so in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Dale. Ann Matson, you are the newsletter editor, are you not?
Yes, I am, and I'm ready to go.
All right, thank you. So anybody who has something for the newsletter, go ahead and email her. Do it fairly promptly because that does come out quickly.
Don't be too wordy.
Dick Benedek has a guest.
You'll be surprised to learn that my guest today is my wife, Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa.
All right, very good. Fred, hospitality.
Well, I'm sad to report that one of our fine members, Harry Hawkins, passed away on May 28th. On June 8th, there'll be just a family memorial, and then later in the fall, there'll be another one. So I'd like to request a moment of silence for Harry Hawkins. Thank you. Also, I'd like to report that Lynn Landy, I believe she's with us today, that she had successful hip surgery. Her sisters are with her. She went out on the patio this weekend, enjoyed the sunlight, and she's making good progress. Another one, I'm sad to say that Dave Lamoureux is in ICU at St. Joe's. He's had a subdural hematoma, and he's had 2 brain surgeries in this last week. And they give him a CT scan a couple times a day. He's had some bleeding. Though the last CT scan last night looked very good, but he does have his cell phone, but recommended not to give him a call for a couple days. When he came through the second operation, he was coherent and conversed with the people. Our thoughts and prayers for Dave, and if you want to send cards, to send them to his home address at 1600 Arbordale, Ann Arbor, Michigan 48103. That's all I have to report.
and many more. All right, thank you. Couple of different things. We are in the process of putting together a special Zoom meeting, not a Monday meeting, but a special Zoom meeting where we will go over physical changes that have been made or proposed and operations changes for reopening. We will also be with Ken and Alan's help and that of Mario doing a video to actually show those changes to the extent that we can show them. They are ongoing, and unfortunately, the regulations are at times contradictory. So on some of these things, we literally have to be speaking with governmental officials to see who has jurisdiction and if the change is going to be acceptable. The difficulty is wait until next week and the rules change. In terms of today's program, I mentioned earlier, for those who came before we started, that our program speaker had to adjourn the meeting for himself, so he will not be here today. But it occurs to me that we've got a lot of stories if you're not bashful and if you're willing to share. And in that regard, I would like to ask you, both Happy Dollars and the program at the same time. If you really want to kick $1 in, you can say you're doing it as a Happy Dollar. If you want to just do it as a sharing a story, it's for free because you are the program.
Nick Deaver has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we're going to be the speaker, since Kiwanis normally pays for the speaker's lunch, are you going to buy me lunch today?
Nick, it's on the table. If you don't get in here and pick it up and eat it, that's your fault. It's right here on the table. All right, please do.
This is Alan, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of run a quasi-security over this meeting and checking names. But I also, I'm going to be a little out there to say I appreciate what Mitch Goodkin is doing today. I think that's who Mitch is, if you can find him on your screen.
My wife tried to trim my hair, but we still need to get to the barber shop at some point.
You need a haircut.
I think it looks good.
I think it's amazing. You know, you think about it. Your wife may be jealous because your hair is longer than hers, I think.
She prefers to keep it short, but I also would like to have it short.
I have to tell you that Bob gave me a haircut today, and it was better than the one I gave him.
You have more to work with. Ken, why don't you go ahead with the names?
Gary Evans.
Yes, I have a Happy Dollar, and the Happy Dollar is for my COVID-19 test, which I had at St. Joe. The results came back today, nothing detected. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm putting that in my jelly jar.
Cliff Sheldon.
I have a Happy Dollar for Harry Hawkins. Not everybody got to know Harry. He joined Kiwanis pretty recently, but he was especially fine individual. He's a townie, Army veteran. He had his own business. Actually, his dad had the business, and then he took it over. I remember that his first real estate transaction was when he was 15 years old. He always had a pen for everybody. He was like the Johnny Appleseed of pens. And he was also the organizer of the football party at German Park. And they would get about 1,000 attendees. And he would always bring invitations for anyone at the Kiwanis meeting. So, special guy, 90 years old, and he'll be missed.
William Hampton.
Yeah, I have 5 happy dollars, one for Harry Hawkins. Harry Hawkins is one of a few people that I know who had 2 birthdays. One was his actual birth certificate birthday, and the other one was his Social Security birthday. And Harry celebrated on occasions both of those birthdays. Harry was an extraordinary guy. He always came to meetings when he could. When he came to the sale, he always came with lots of money, but he always tried to negotiate down on the prices there. And I've known Harry for probably more than 40 years, and I know that his life was a life well lived. So that's one happy dollar. Second happy dollar is for Casey Smith. He's my wife Esther and my godchild. Tomorrow is his 25th birthday. Last Tuesday, as I reported last week, they buried his father, a person who'd been victimized by the COVID coronavirus situation. And he spoke at the funeral. As a 24-year-old, he was eloquent. And I've already reached out to him today, wished him a happy birthday, and telling him that I know this is the first birthday without his dad. He said to me, his dad is still with him in his heart. So that's my second happy dollar. Third happy dollar is for another funeral that I attended this week. He was 49 years old. His name was Jonathan. Jane knew him as well. We have a very good friend, Johnny Bass, who's his mother, and his funeral was a celebration of life, and it wasn't sad. And the fourth happy dollar I have, actually I have 5 happy dollars. The fourth happy dollar that I have is for another life well lived, person who died just his ventilator by his side because no patients were allowed in. He was my fraternity brother. He was one of the persons that we all celebrated as couples Valentine's Day together for the last 25 years. He died on the 28th, same day as Harry. His wife, ironically, died on Mother's Day 2 years ago. The happy dollar for him. So all of that was very difficult for me. But my 5th happy dollar is for Kathy Barton. On the day after the last funeral that I attended, I received a wonderful card from her, which I will share this on my screen. And it was about friendship and support. And I appreciate Kathy. I appreciate all that she's done for the club. I appreciate the fact that she has overcome her own obstacles in her life. And thank you so much, Kathy. 6 happy dollars. One more. Lynn Landy. She texted me and I talked to her from my hospital bed. She was still under sedation, but she was still the cheering Lynn right after her operation. And I appreciate that, Lynn. I see you're here at the meeting, also in your hospital bed. And I say congratulations on your tenacity. So 6 happy dollars.
William, we have 134 members or so you can keep going if you want.
I don't have any more money.
All right.
Can I borrow $1 from you?
Sure.
Can I borrow $1 from you?
Yes, I said yes, okay. Sure.
Well, I just got a note here in my chat box, and it's from our president. He asked me to let everybody know that he sends out an encouraging sunrise email almost every day. And if you're having a bad day and you receive one of those, you're instantly inspired. So my 7th happy dollar is by the chat from Dan, and the happy dollar will be paid by Dan. Thank you so much, Dan.
Bob Gray.
Well, I'm a little late, but I was going to start a fund for a haircut for Mitch, but looks like she's all taken care of. So, but also I would like to acknowledge contributions of Harry Hawkins. I didn't know him nearly as long as many of you did, but my association was always pleasant. And also, congratulations to Lynn. I'm glad her operation was a success, and I talked with her a couple of days ago, and she's in great spirits. Thank you.
Margaret Krasnoff.
I have $5 happy for Harry Hawkins. I'm very sorry to hear that he's passed away. I first met Harry in the mid-1970s when I used to go to his father's business and order pens and keychains and all sorts of items from his dad to advertise for our conferences and so forth in the U of M department that I was working in at the time. And I remember his father even better than I remember Harry, but I do remember Harry was always in and out of that business, carrying boxes, putting things around, and he and his father were both sort of bigger than life people, and he will be missed. I have another $5 happy for the jewelry department. I know they've been recognized before, but I did get my card and my little piece of jewelry from them, and I thought it was a really lovely gesture on their part. And so I thank Genia and Veronica and Cecile and the others who thought of doing that and actually executed it and got it done. Those are my 10 happy dollars, which are my lunch money for Kiwanis that I'm not paying my lunch money for anymore. Is this also the time for stories, or were you doing them separately? I can't remember.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I have a sort of an amusing COVID story that I think everyone can appreciate. I was in Myers last week on Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock, which is when I go shopping there, and it's mostly old folks like myself who are there. And when I finished my shopping, I stood in the self-checkout line behind two other women, and we were 6 feet apart at least, and we all had masks on. And the person two in front of me looked behind her and saw that the person just in front of me only had a few items in her basket. So she said, "I'd be happy to let you go ahead of me. I have a full cart and you only have a couple of items, so you can go ahead." And the woman in front of me looked amazed, and she said, "Oh no, this is my outing for the day. Please take your time and go ahead of me." So I thought that kind of summed up the way a lot of us feel, having been cooped up for so long.
Dale Leslie.
Well, my story is kind of precedent setting. You'll be happy to know that Kiwanis does make house calls. I have an anniversary clock that I bought at the sale that has been very temperamental. Ralph Mayton came over to my condo and worked on my clock and got it working. After he left, after a few minutes elapsed, I called him on the phone to thank him again. And I said, "By the way, it's now 9:15. He said, 9:15. I said, "Yeah, that's when the clock stopped, 9:15. He said, "Well, Dale, it'll be correct twice a day. Be satisfied with that." So anyway, we do house calls. I didn't know that.
Evan Leroy.
So I have a COVID story. We've got 3 small kids. Most of you know that at home. We've got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. My oldest is turning 8 soon. But one of the games that we've been playing is how to get the kids out of the house and tire them out as much as possible. The good weather has helped a little bit recently with that. This last weekend, we did a bike trip down Hudson Mills. So we started at the very most northern part of Hudson Mills, came down on the border-to-border trail into Dexter, and this was a success all of its own, because my daughter hasn't really been been biking with her new bike very much yet. It's a little bit big, as you may recall with your kids or grandkids. You know, you got to upgrade them to the bigger bike, but then with it comes the problems of trying to wrangle a bigger bike. So it worked out okay. There was only a few falls, but you know, on a paved trail, it works out pretty good. And we of course stopped at Dairy Queen, as you can see behind me. Had to make the stop there. That was part of the carrot that was out there to get them all on board with the bike ride. And then the real highlight of the trip was the next leg of the trip, though, where we continue on out Huron River Drive. There's a trail that goes from Dexter kind of over to the other metro parks. So we on that trail we ran into Peter Shork and the Shork family, and it's happened probably 3 or 4 times that we've run into him on the same trail. So I'm beginning to think that Peter is now possibly living in the metro parks because he's there every time I go. So this could explain the unkempt appearance. I'm not sure. That could be retirement as well. So it's anybody's guess. But that's my COVID story, though, is the bike ride, successful bike ride, and Peter Shork sighting.
He did lose his job.
There you go. Living in the park now, under the bridge. They're nice bridges, though.
Jade Talcott.
Yes. Harry, a happy dollar for Harry Hawkins. I was so encouraging and friendly. And I remember his telling the story that when he needed to paint his building, one time he went to Kiwanis, bought all the paint that was inexpensive, and mixed it all together. And that's the color of the building. I also have a happy dollar for everyone who has contributed to the Cross Challenge for camper ships for kids as soon as they can safely be sent to camp. And I think Max Ziegler was the first one to donate to the challenge, and I thank Max. Thanks.
Jane, I have something to say about that. People, I believe, have also been contributing, may have been contributing also through PayPal. You probably haven't gotten those yet, but there's a, you may see those coming through the website. Kathy Marshall would know about that.
All right. I checked the email just before I got on, and I haven't seen anything, but we'll figure out how it works.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fred Sanchez.
Well, I have a happy dollar for Harry Hawkins also. When I had my travel agency, I used him and he came up with a very nice leather luggage tag, and that we gave to our new clients. And one of our clients mentioned, he says, "That's really nice because your competitors are giving away a 25-cent plastic one," so they appreciate it. And I still have them. They're on all my tool cases today, and they were a great product. I have another story that is very surprising to me, that one of my best friends for about 12 years in Ann Arbor, we were like brothers. We cut down trees. He did the high work, I did the low work, and we were always together. Well, in about 2012, he decided he was gonna go around the world, and he has children all over the world, and he was gonna see them, and I didn't hear anything. About a year later, I got a phone call from him, and he told me, he says, "Fred, I was in Arizona visiting my daughter," and he says, "It was just like in the movies. 3 men in dark suits came up, knocked on the door, and they took him to Washington, D.C. It turns out he has an immense knowledge of oil refineries and oil storage facilities and pipelines and these all over the world, particularly in the Middle East and Ukraine. And they hired him. He's getting paid a large sum of money. And he said in that phone call, he says, "Watch what you say, Fred. They're probably listening to the call." And I hadn't heard from him. Well, a week ago, I was at Home Depot and to get something, and I saw him, and I was shocked. I shouted, and we had a long talk and the like, and he's explained that he's working for the CIA. He has 3 different passports. He's been in North Korea twice. He has a red pill in his back pocket if they catch him. It's an amazing story. He's living in London on a boat on the Thames, but he's hardly ever there. They've got him going all over the world. I asked him to give me a call. The reason he came, that his sister's husband died up north, and they needed to fix something, and he went to Home Depot on his way from the airport. And I said, "Give me a call." He says, "I don't carry a phone. If I call, I go buy a throwaway phone, make the phone call, and there's all kinds of security, and then throw away that phone." So, but I'm sure I won't see him again, but it was great to see him.
Lynn Landy.
Wow, some people lead very interesting lives. Well, certainly I have a happy dollar for my new hip and for all the good care I got, and a very happy dollar for my sister Sue, who has been here with me, taking care of me, keeping me company, and for the good wishes I've received from my family, friends, and Kiwanis. And all is well, and I'm glad to be back with you, and I'm on the road to recovery, which is really great. Feels good.
Lynn, how long were you in the hospital?
23, about 20 hours.
Okay, so now you're on a 2-week self-isolation because you've been in a COVID high-density area?
No,
The hospital?
No, I didn't go in the hospital. Actually, they sent me up to Brighton. There's a surgical center there. And so it's primarily outpatient surgery, and they don't have any sick people there. So, but everything was very carefully done. But I felt very secure, very safe. It was good.
Mitch Goodkin.
Just want to put in another happy dollar. I'll leave this first one in there, but the another one is that we have 2 very nice younger couples, families living next to us that have done some shopping for us.
Great. Nick Deaver.
Qualified as a sad dollar. Sorry to hear, Dale, that after you call somebody out, this 80-year-old came over to your house and cleaned your clock.
Peter Shork.
So I had to bounce in and out. I was actually talking to Mario. Has it been announced about the Reverend Terry Smith?
No.
Our longtime former member, Reverend Smith, passed away.
Oh.
He was 88. I do not have specifics. It is actually, the obit should be online very shortly. But he passed away over the weekend. I certainly don't want to make light of my good friend Harry Hawkins, but since we only do this once a week, whoever's doing the newsletter, hopefully there's some information in the next couple days. I had the good fortune of growing up in Lansdowne, and he was a very good friend of my family, so sorry to see it.
George Gilligan.
Yeah, it looks like Mitch got a haircut or ditched his wig. I don't know which.
It was a
Fred
very quick
Sanchez.
haircut.
Oh. Fred Sanchez.
I just had one other comment about this quarantine we're under. Now I fully understand why when a door opens, the dog runs out.
Len Lostrom.
Sorry to hear about Terry Smith. Betty had known him for years, and he actually officiated at our wedding, which was actually held at Ann Arbor Country Club. First one there.
And if I would have waited 5 minutes, it is not, the obituary is now online. I just looked at it with another device. So if you do see it over the weekend, if you check on M Live, it is there.
Dan, with regard to Harry Hawkins, one perhaps last note or not, I spoke with someone who met with Harry on a regular basis concerning real estate, and who in fact saw him shortly before he passed. And if you didn't know Harry, Harry never gave up. Harry continued. Harry planned ahead. Harry did not admit limitations or things get in the way. He would go over or around them or through them. Within 3 days of his death, he was planning and scheduling a meeting to discuss his real estate holdings and what he was going to do with them next, and what else was he going to buy. So, yeah, one of those individuals that it's not over till it's over.
John Dahl.
Yes, I just joined the meeting because I just got back. Claire had some major dental work done this morning for 3 hours, and so I just picked her up. She's lying down. She said, I don't think I need a nap, but she does. You know, she said, oh, I have stuff to do. But anyway, she's doing okay, and she had a tooth pulled, actually 2 teeth pulled, so she's going to have those eventually replaced over the next 6 months. So she's doing okay, though.
Dan Burrows.
At any rate, I have a good story here about Dave Lamoureux, who's in very difficult shape now, as you know. I mean, I know he had a brain surgery on Friday, a major one. He's got a scar that runs from pretty much his eyebrow all the way to the back behind his head, behind his ear. So it's quite a dramatic picture. But at any rate, and he may have had more than one brain surgery since then. I'm not certain, but I thought it was interesting because he's on the Children and Youth Services Committee, and you know, if there's ever a Kiwanian who doubts whether they're up to the work that they need to do for Kiwanis, I got an email from Dave on Saturday. This was maybe 12 hours after his brain surgery, maybe 15, I'm not sure how many. But he was wanting to be sure that we got his report on the grant that he reviewed for the Science Olympiad, because the Science Olympiad people requested some money from Children and Youth Services, and Dave reviewed that grant application, and he wanted to be sure we got it. So he filed an email with me. It was a little, you know, right after brain surgery, you're on a lot of drugs and things, so it was a little discombobulated in places. So he also sent a note to his wife at the bottom of the email. It says, Linda, can you fix this up? Make it read right, please, and add that photo, he says. And the photo, of course, was of his scar on the top of his head. So remarkable character.
John Kinzinger.
Yes, I have a happy dollar today. A week ago, we had a Memorial Day Zoom service at at the Vietnam Memorial in Ypsilanti Township. There was about 5 of us low-tech baby boomers who put it together, and I believe it came out quite well. 2 weeks before Memorial Day, we said, we have to have something, but with the COVID requirements and all, we decided to do a Zoom meeting, and it came out quite well. I think maybe, Peter, I think you saw it. I was happy the way it came out. Those 76 men from our county who died in Vietnam were honored this year. I have a happy dollar for that. Thank you.
Mr. President, this is Alan. I don't have a hand to raise because I don't get that on as a co-host, but I want to make a happy $10 contribution. Observing in the background, watching the meeting be operating. Congratulations we had up to 60 people today. It seems week after week, we have 50 to 70 people come to these Zooms meeting, and it's pretty darn impressive how well a bunch of us can master this new technology. And the curve is really quite impressive on the reduction of help requests that we're receiving. So I see that as a very hopeful sign for all of us. Thank you.
William Hampton.
I'd just like to mention one additional thing. This is no happy dollars. It's not even happy stuff. But I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Tonight at 7 o'clock, our NAACP is having its monthly meeting. And given the state of affairs in America right now, our primary topic will be criminal justice reform. And we are very optimistic about making a difference in the way things are here in the United States right now. And it affects people who look like me more than anybody else. So I just want to mention that because this is very important. We're going to have a statement from the schools. There'll be a statement from the Michigan Congress, and I am extremely optimistic about the results of tonight's meeting.
Lynn Lanty?
I'd like to follow up because I've been thinking about you, William, a lot. And I know our hearts are heavy with all that has been going on. And if you're comfortable, I would just like to invite you to share some of what your thoughts and feelings are right now as we face this crisis. And it would mean a lot to me. And if you're comfortable doing that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Lynn. I appreciate that. And if it's okay, I would just like to say that for many people here in the United States, for most people in the United States, they are not impacted the way people like me are. They see things that are going on as a way of maintaining law and order, and I understand that. Without law and order, we'd be a worse society. But for a long time, for all of my life and before then, people who look like me have been adversely affected by the criminal justice system. And I've been a person who's seen that up close and personal for a lot of years. I try to be encouraging, but sometimes it gets a little depressing to me too as well. But I am once again encouraged by some of the things that are happening. I'm discouraged by other things that are happening, like, for example, and I don't know all the details. I do know I was involved in a briefing from Sheriff Clayton last week, but the incident in Ypsilanti didn't look good. The incident in Minnesota didn't look good. The incident occurred in Louisville, Kentucky, didn't look good. The incident that occurred in Georgia didn't look good. And it looked worse for most people like me. So I'm trying to be strong for the people who are very depressed by the occurrences of the last week. But it gets difficult when you see some folks who think there's not a problem. It's not my goal to play the blame game and blame all of a certain segment of the population. That's not my goal. My goal is positive change. And that's in a nutshell how I'm feeling right now. Thank you so much, Lynn, for asking me that. I appreciate it. Tell your saint sister that I said hi.
Let me segue off that just a moment. We're all old enough to have, most of us, sorry, Evan, most of us are old enough to have been in this primacy of the civil rights era with Dr. King and with violence then, and with police lines with dogs. There were whites and blacks in the demonstrations. There are now, I would suggest, there's a schism, whereas in the 60s, you probably had more white dominance than now in terms of the presumption of people or their assumption, because you had more strident racism and segregation. We currently have police officers who have in some cities marched with protesters. We've had police officers bend a knee when protesters bent a knee. But we've also had calls for police dogs, and we've had violence, and we've had death. So the problem isn't over. I would hope to be able to say that for at least some segment of the population, there is a greater awareness, sensitivity, and equality, but freedom does not come free. And I think that we have to be ever vigilant and ever active to assure those freedoms. And I think the message here is it's not over. And maybe we are losing ground, but maybe on the other hand, those who would seek to further white dominance are threatened because we've gained ground. And that is the hopeful message that I would take, is that we've made progress to the point that some people are fearful of change. But we have to continue to press for that change. Now, if you happen to disagree with me, disagree with me. So I don't mean to be proselytizing. I'm simply saying the phrase from the Constitution, the phrase "all men are created equal." I take men as mankind, and I would hope that someday we would all read that in the same fashion. In terms of future programs, June 8th, Ashaki, the sustainable apparel. June 15th, we have an update on the Keep. That will be from 3 University of Michigan graduate students who did an extensive study in the Keep. Have some good photographs, and hopefully, I've seen their written report. I think it will be a very good presentation. June 22nd, Gordon Hall presentation, current status. And 29th, the Ann Arbor Summer Festival, which was today's program. Evan, if you would just keep an eye on them, and if they cancel again, then we'll reschedule them again and just keep bouncing them on until next year. Because frankly, I'm not sure what he's going to talk about. There is no Ann Arbor Summer Festival this year. Is that correct? Who knows? But
I think it's been
good to hear what he has to say. Does anybody have? Excuse me?
I think it has been mostly canceled, but I think there is some potential kind of remote events.
Good. Does anybody have any other meeting coming up?
We have Children of the Youth Services meeting right after this meeting at 1:30, a Zoom meeting.
Okay, and you sent out a separate invitation, or did they just stay online?
It's a separate invitation from Jim Dries.
All right, with that, I would call for the Pledge of Allegiance and the end of the program. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Justice for all.
If you will, as you will. Drive safe.